International curling makes a return to the land down under. Stunning beaches, surf, and sunshine greet the athletes competing at the 2017 Pacific Asia Curling Championship. We're at the Erina Ice Arena, about an hour north of Sydney on the beautiful Central Coast, for our feature game today in the women's competition. Here in the Erina Ice Arena, as we come inside on this sunny day, it is Japan versus China. I'm Hans Fraunhoff, and joining me is World Mixed Curling Champion Sander Rolva. Good afternoon, Sander.
Good afternoon, Hans.
So, from the sunny weather into the competition we go. In the women's competition, 6 member associations are competing. Korea has won their morning game. They're at 1-0. Australia, China will be playing their first games this afternoon, along with Hong Kong and New Zealand. Japan losing this morning, coming into this game 0-1. Let's meet Team Japan. At lead is Yurika Yoshida. At second, Mari Motohashi. Tsunami Yoshida is at third, and Satsuki Fujisawa is the skip. The alternate is Yumi Suzuki, and the coach is Hitomi Nagaoka.
And for Team China, today in the lineup at lead, we have Yan Hui. At second, Yao Ming Hui. At third, Yan Chindi, and the team is skipped by Yang Irun. Alternate is Mong Chu. And of course, coach Marcel Rock.
So we see our teams preparing for the match. A relatively inexperienced Chinese team here against one of the tournament favorites in Japan, the world silver medalists, and their Olympic representative team from Japan. So this should be a really full-on contest, I think, Sander.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen much of this Chinese team before, but with the amount of efforts China's put into curling in the last few years, I think they've had more than the one good team, so it'll be interesting to watch them.
Japan will be playing the red stones. China will be playing the yellow stones. Japan has last rock advantage here in the first end of this game, so it will be China getting us underway.
Yeah, both teams playing 2 draws in practice before the game. Those draws are measured, and Japan came better out and have the last stone.
So as we mentioned, Japan played this morning, but this is China's first game of the tournament. So Yan Hui getting us underway for Team China.
Played 13 years of curling, only 22 years old, so it's going to be some touch. And they're just looking for a draw into the house here, Hans. So a bit of a cautious start. Will allow Japan to play the hit if they so desire.
Satsuki Fujisawa putting her brush down. Target for her lead player, Yurika Yoshida, but it looks like it's Japan going straight to the offense.
Yeah, always nice to see the guard played early on, taking fully advantage of the free guard zone, which means that China is not allowed to hit or remove this red stone on their next one. A rule implemented into the game to be able to force your opponents to keep stones in play. Makes for more of an aggressive game.
Job done for Yoshida.
And then normally for the team without hammer, the affectionate name of the last stone advantage. You'll put up the center guard here to protect your stone in the house. Although I think the call here is to actually come into the top of the 12 foot, the blue outer circle. And it's always the cautious approach, bringing your stones into the house.
At some point, the Japanese will have to deal with those stones. Maybe that time is now. 2 nice stones there from Yan Hui. She's the rookie. This is her first international competition, so I'm sure that's helpful for her. Trying the double, but jams the back stone, but leaves her own stone in behind cover in that corner guard position. So that actually worked out pretty well for Team Japan.
Yeah, I think making the roll there more important than the double. You see it's perfectly in behind the guard, makes it really hard for China to come at it. So He will now try and remove that guard and try and open up the red stone.
Here is Yao Minghui playing second position for Team China.
This should be the second player's bread and butter, peeling corner guards.
And that one is perfect.
And you'll see Japan now with a chance to make the hit and set 2.
So Mari Motohashi playing at second stone.
This one just over curling and will roll out, so might be looking at a blank end here.
Motohashi there a little disappointed. She would have liked to stick around.
Usually when there's only one stone left in play, especially if it's in the house, you'll just see the teams run the rocks through, and you might see Japan just look to blank the end, no score, to retain the last stone advantage and try again for the second end, but quite a few rocks left in the end.
Sticks around. China lies 1. If you're new to our sport, the stone has to be touching at least part of the painted rings to be eligible to count. It doesn't have to be completely in the rings, so that stone is a counter.
And this is pretty much what China was looking for, just an open end to start things off. You saw by bringing both the lead rocks into the house, made the play very open, and one slip up from Japan means that we're now probably looking at a no-score end.
And Sander, sometimes the teams will tactically try to blank the end. And why would they try not to score?
Well, sometimes there's actually quite a few reasons. Sometimes you might just want to bank some time. Both teams, or all teams, have playing time when they play curling. If you run out of time, you lose the game. So sometimes you'll just do that to bank some clock, but mainly to probably control the scoreboard. When you blank an end, as mentioned, you retain the hammer, last stone advantage. Try again.
Tsunami Yoshida, the Japanese third, trying to reply to that nice stone by Zhang Jindi of China.
This situation, though, Hans, not really left with too many options. He would like to score 2, but making a move here would be just a little bit too aggressive, so going to take their blank, try again next end. And mentioning controlling the scoreboard, I think we'll get into what that means a little bit later on in the game.
Teams trading hits, but this one is not sticking around on the ring, so maybe something for Japan to try and draw around if they're feeling a bit frisky. And we see that Fujisawa is saying, yep, let's do that.
Could actually see Team Japan switching up the rocks there. Might mean they've gathered some information about the stones. You know, some stones might curl a bit more than others. Maybe they think they have a stone that cuts a bit more, and choosing to use that now to come around the yellow guard.
See the brushers switching to try and promote a little bit more curl. They'd love to bury this behind that yellow stone if they can. Really working it just a bit light. Had great line. Maybe splittable though. So Yoshida coming up just short with her attempted draw.
Didn't seem to be sweeping it max the whole way, so I'm a bit surprised they let it go.
Yeah, they did seem to like it. Satsuki Fujisawa and Tsunami Yoshida both sporting scarves here, even though it's a lovely day outside here in Australia. We are in an ice rink, and here is Chinese skip Jiang Yilun.
Well, that's the thing though, Hans. The ice needs to remain frozen.
It is a fairly integral part of the sport, really, isn't it? Otherwise, we'd be playing water polo.
Yeah, so China could have come around the guard here to put some pressure on Team Japan, but if they would ever over curl, they could have tapped that red stone into the house. So just taking a more cautious approach here, destroying just in the fully open. Actually not too bad, being in the back of the 8-foot just means that a hit and roll in behind cover Japan less likely now. So I think I'll just see a nose hit from Team Japan.
This Japanese team were silver medalists at the World Women's Curling Championship in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. And they have qualified as their national representatives to the upcoming Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. So here is Satsuki Fujisawa. She's curled 21 of her 26 years. Wants to stick around, but this one's going to roll off the rings. So, a bit of a chance for China to force here, perhaps, Sander. A bit brave to go around that one, but
yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing them try and come around the stones on the wing here, but just sticking to the more cautious call here, destroying the 4-foot.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to overcurl and promote the Japanese stone onto the rings and give up a 2, so the call is the draw into the rings toward the center line for Jiang Yilun.
The good part about this call is gives the skip a good chance for just to get the draw weight to the 4-foot. This is the type of shot that skips will have to do quite often and during a curling game. So just finding the speed and the line for this shot early on could be a bit of a confidence booster.
Well, that one is right into the button area. That's the centermost circle. We call that the button. So draw weight is definitely dialed in for Team China. And now we'll see if Japan can execute the blank. Fujisawa would like to get contact and roll her own stone out of the rings if she can to keep last rock.
Yeah, scoring 1 point in curling is rarely a victory. So, like we've mentioned a couple times, just want to blanket here, retain the hammer, try again next end. Well, this one might be over curling, Hans.
Right on the beak. So that is the inexpensive force for Team China. Japan scores 1, and after one end of play, Japan won. China yet to score. Eureka Yoshida getting us underway here in the second end. You're enjoying live curling from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2017 here in Erina, Australia. It's the first time that Australia has hosted an international curling event in 21 years, and the athletes, if you ask all of them, They're all very, very happy to be coming here. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
And so warm, Hans. Curling is traditionally played in winter, but the season has been it's becoming longer and longer. So even events in, for instance, Canada in September, you might have pretty warm weather. In Switzerland, definitely been to a couple of events. It's just very nice to be able to walk around in a t-shirt and shorts in between draws.
Well, the athletes could certainly do that here, but action's heating up on the ice. We see China responding to the Japanese center guard with a come-around attempt. So China with the hammer here on the second, intent to make something happen, and Japan saying, yep, we'll play. They're going to try and follow it down and freeze. They'd like their stone to come to rest right on top, or at least on a corner of that Chinese stone. Looks pretty good. Very nice shot there from Yoshida. And Jiang Jielun says, okay, we'll play too. Looking to play the out turn. Two basic rotations in curling. The athletes will deliberately rotate the rock. That's what creates the curve or the curl of the stone as it comes down the ice. This is the out turn being played. This will move towards that center line. They want to get it by that guard, though. Sweepers are trying to hold the line. Now they're looking to position it on top of that Japanese stone. Small bump there, promoting the Japanese stone into shot position, but China won't be too disappointed with that. Maybe a foot lighter for Yan would have been a bonus, but that's a pretty good stone.
Yeah, it's very much about just controlling the top of the house. Stones in front can always be promoted, but stones behind the tee line can never come back. So it's one of the important things in curling.
Mare Motohashi on her in-turn, looking to play follow the leader. End number 2 of our 10-end contest. I'd like to bring it up on top of that stone again. They get a corner freeze. So this one's shaping up as interesting, and there's Chinese coach Marcel Rock. Fairly legendary athlete himself. He's a multiple world championship winner from Canada, and helping the Chinese program in their attempt to qualify for Olympics this year. China now says it's getting a little bit crowded out there, so they elect to run the center guard. Yeah. Motohashi now looking to put back that center guard.
It's clear that Japan is the team to force the issue here, while China is definitely going for the more cautious approach. You could see that already in the first 10, and it's continuing here in the second.
And there you see the Japanese bench, and there is coach James J.D. Lind, another Canadian curler, and he's really made a name for himself as an international coach. He's worked with the Japanese program now for a number of years. He's a young man himself and has really improved the results on the international stage for Japanese curling. He's been a big contributor to that. China again ripping the center guard. They were hoping maybe for a little bit of action on the stones in the rings, but accomplishes the first part of the mission. So quite a cluster of stones there along the center line just in front of the button area. The red stones belong to Japan. There's Chinami Yoshida.
You can hear the Japanese front end just calling out numbers. I believe Ichni-san is 1, 2, 3. And that would be the zones for guards. So most teams will split the playing zone into 10 zones. 1, 2, and 3 being guards, 4 through 10 being in the house. Actually, a system, I believe, created by the Furby 4, the team of Randy Furby, where Marcel Rock played lead many years ago. Yeah. It's a system most teams use these days.
Yeah, it's been well adapted, and it makes communications really clear, and that's really important for shot execution to know exactly where the stone is tracking. Trying to angle her own stone onto the red Japanese rock. Gets a little bit of action. Pushes the Japanese stone just behind the tee line. Rearranges them a bit. That makes it interesting. China does have the hammer here. And the yellow stones belong to China, and they're accumulating. You got to be a bit careful now if you're Japan.
He actually overcurled the shot there and touched the yellow on the way before making contact with the red, taking some of the momentum out.
Sweepers think the weight's a bit down on this one. They jump it immediately, trying to hold line. Trying to remove at least one of the Chinese stones, ideally 2. Sits her own stone on the front of the 8-foot, defending that stone in the button area. So Yoshida looks it over. Still something to work with here for Team China, however. They have a couple of options.
Well, you can see it's not very easy to promote any of the yellow stones onto the shot stone here. So I believe the call might be to come on the right-hand side as we see it and try and tap up the yellow stone here. So slightly jump off that red stone perhaps and roll it into the 8-foot and maybe get a little bit of a redirect off the red stone in the top of the 12-foot. We'll see. The stone is on its way for Jiang. Want to get on the inside of that red stone. They do. And they do get that little redirect. So danger builds for Team Japan. They're lying shot, but China is lying second, third, and fourth shot, and they've got the hammer. Yeah, pretty good result there, I think.
Absolutely.
Japan might be running scared. Only the one red stone in the 4-foot.
See the 3 stones belonging to China surrounding that red Japanese stone and just behind the tee line in the 4-foot. So you can't guard everything. Trying to decide how they can make things more difficult for Team China.
とりあえず2は残るね、赤の2は残
But
る
as we're looking at this angle,
出せるんだったらこっちどっちか消化して
China currently has at least 3 shot options and maybe 4 if you count that run in on the outside stone.
開いちゃうともう
そうだね。
そうだね
ダブルされちゃうね。
書いてもいい気がするけど、もうやりすぎ怖い。
抑えるのは？
いややってもいいと思うよ。やってもいいけど、
あ
やったら相手普通にこれか、そしたらワンツーで、まあ最後ダブルすれば1回
あー、サブ？
サグか。うん、オッケー。
こっちあんまり見えてないってこの石で。
でも相手今ダウンウェイトで同じ
Still a bit of indecision here,
や
Sander.
るから多分簡単だと思う
Yeah, spending some time here. Well, you mentioned playing time earlier. Kind of have to make a call. Can't spend too much time on this.
Yes, each team has 38 minutes of thinking time to play the game, and they each have 1 60-second timeout where they can stop the clock. But this is an important situation, even though it's early in the game for Team Japan. They don't want to make a mistake here. China could score 3 or 4 if they make a mistake. So Fujisawa now electing, looks like she's going to play some kind of a down weight guard or tap into the path of that stone in the 8-foot.
Yeah, just guarding, taking away the tap on the Yellowstone here. Seems to be the most likely shot for China to play. This one actually over curling, but is able to rub off the guard there and finds a good spot after all. And China, of course, has been thinking about their call for a while.
Well, as we said for Japan, they couldn't guard everything. They did guard that straight tap back, so they've taken away the easiest shot. But China on this side of the sheet has at least 2 options. They can go promote red, yellow, and push it into the button area. They could also try to thin angle their yellow stone in the 4-foot on a 45-degree angle into the red stone. So options here for China. What will they play? Fujisawa looking on.
Yeah, it looks like the double tap is the call here.
It's close.
The line looks pretty good. See if there's enough weight here to move the stone right up, and they do. Very nice shot there.
Right on the pin. Gentle double tap. Needed the perfect line and the perfect weight, and Zhang Jilin executed it perfectly. Now China lies 1, and Japan is still in danger. Here the on-off call from the 3rd. That's usually a clue that the shot is really close to being made. And there it is, just perfect weight, comes to rest right on the pin. Great shot. Yellowstones belong to China. They're lying 1. Japan's lying 2nd shot in the right-hand side of that red 4-foot circle, but China is lying 3rd and 4th.
You can see the problem with the shot, though. They've pretty much left the exact same shot back to Japan. They can make the double tap now onto the shot stone.
Yeah, the angle in would have been a tougher shot, but maybe a higher percentage one. But regardless, this is not easy for Fujisawa. She can't make any error on the line. Shot's on its way. Skip stones here in the 2nd.
Looks pretty close. I think just enough to lie shot stone there for Team Japan.
Now, there's a smile from Fujisawa. So that worked out pretty good.
Yeah, the good thing is the shooter remains staggered on the top, so there's no double tap available for China. There might be a double off their own stone on the wing. As you see the action again here.
And this is one of these classic risk-reward situations, isn't it, Sander? They could try a long run in and maybe try a raise double takeout and maybe score 5, but you could also drop through 2 or 3 if you weren't successful. Looks like from the brush position, just looks to be a little draw attempt here. So it's a bit of an opportunity lost, I think, for Team China, really. You don't get many chances in the game to cash in a big end.
So I believe Japan is lying 2 here. If not, I think you could just come off your own yellow stone on the left-hand side there and score your 2. But if, in fact, there are 2 red counters, I don't think she'll have much more choice than just to draw the button for the single point.
So this is the last stone on its way of end number 2 for Jiang Yilun, trying to get one into the button area to save the end.
She made a couple of good draws in the first end.
Don't want to leave it short. They need it to curl, but they don't want to leave it short. Sweepers are now trying to get it up into the button area, and nicely done right on the tee line. What a great shot from Jiang Yilun. China scores 1. Fantastic draw there on the last to save the end. Well, that was an exciting end to curling. After 2, we're all tied up. It is Japan 1, China 1.
我出手那一瞬间，我感觉我松一点，力量大了，实在不行磕甩也行，反正那空穿不过去，前面感觉对，有点别。行，还是前边打的有点，就是中区太靠中，有点太危险了。稍微简单一点对击，他稍微冷静冷静，然后想战术，主要是战术有点乱，我感觉。OK， 行。 稍微小一点。3区啊，2还行。2、3、力量小。3区。
Here in the third.
2起来，2。我。
We're deadlocked at 1.
OK。3区可以近一点，哈里，擦，哈里，擦，再来。OK。
我想要球。
对。新右斜靠。
China throws the center guard, and Japan again
对多少？
stating their intentions. They want to go right around it. Erika Yoshida. Nice stone there from Yoshida, right on the button, right on the pin. See Erika gets a high 5 from Mari Motohashi. Yan Hui from the Changchun Curling Club. The other members of her team are from Harbin. And this one's going to slide deeper in the house than she would have liked. It goes to rest in the back of the white 8-foot circle. So a good chance here for Japan to duck another one behind that center guard. Doesn't quite get behind cover. Nice weight, comes to rest in the top 8-foot circle, but it will be accessible for Team China. Yao Minghui being asked to make a pass at that stone and maybe kill 2.
擦一擦，跟，好球！再也不想好了。
Easy peasy.
Great shot. Kills 2, leaves herself lying 1. Zhang Jilin does what's happened to me sometimes in the house, is a skip when you're trying to sweep the opponent's stone out. A little upside down brushing, but she righted that. Got the Japanese stone out, and China's lying 2. So, Motohashi now trying to remove 1 at least. Just by the guard. It's not a bad result. Maybe leaving her shooter partly covered behind the center guard. And you see Mari Motohashi. And as we can see on this shooter's end angle, there is indeed a corner hidden behind that center.
Yeah, so it won't be possible for China to get to the inside here. They'll be looking to probably make the hit and roll to the wing. This one maybe a bit pacey.
Got contact, but will she stick around? No, the stone rolls off the rings, touches that side barrier. That means the stone comes out of play.
Yeah, it hit the right spot. Just too much weight there to be able to hang around.
So Japan ignoring that stone in the back of the 8-foot, looking to use that center guard to generate offense.
Yeah, third end in a row where you see Japan with the aggressive calls. That hasn't really paid out for them yet, but I think they'll just keep playing this way until they get a couple of deuces up on the board.
That is a beauty. Actually over curls and maybe pops a corner out on the outturn side, but perfect weight, top 8-foot.
Yeah, no need to be all the way into the inner circle there. Just allows more room for China to come around. So closer that draw is to the guard, the harder for China to make a play on it. Probably need to throw a bit less weight now to stick around. You can see even less this time. So
Zhang Jindi needs to navigate past that center guard, but no, she clips it going by. That one was a little tight out of hand. And we've seen, especially early in the tournament, anything resembling down weight and the stones will definitely make a move.
So when you have the last stone, what you very often try to do, at least in an open end, is try and split your stones, try to create as much separation as possible. With the red stone in the top 8, it's kind of hard to find a good spot. So what they're trying to do here is actually split the red stones. Or perhaps even just play a tap onto the back yellow, but this one fairly shy of weight, so actually going to crash on the guard, big mistake.
Yeah, the door was open for Team Japan, but now the pendulum swings back in favor of Team China. Chance to remove the Japanese shooter, and it's only a short roll, and they'll get cover behind those center guards. Japan with the hammer, but China with a great chance to at least force and maybe steal. Love a little inside roll. Not going to get it. And jams on her own back one and pushes it off the ring. So a bit of back and forth here for both teams. Small chances, just not taking them. And this is a situation where when Team Japan did so well at the World Women's and Swift Current, this was the kind of shot that they made a lot. Down weight, hit and roll.
Yeah, I think that's a type of shot that needs to be executed if you're going to be a top team. very often the teams that make the hit and rolls, they win games.
That one doesn't curl enough for the roll. That's on the nose for Shinami Yoshida.
A hit and roll is a team shot more than anything. It's a skip to read the ice, give the right broom. Of course, the player needs to hit the broom, throw the right weight, but also the sweepers need to communicate the weight for the skip. So skip can calculate the line, and you know, there's very small margins to make the perfect roll. And this one will hit the outside. Does avoid the jam in the back.
That one just does hang around on the edge of the 12-foot. That's annoying for Japan because it takes the blank away as an option, but with those two center guards there, they seem pretty determined to try and get one of their own behind that center guard.
Yeah, not at all surprised that Japan's just coming around the guards here. Again, just opting for the aggressive call.
They do have last rock here on end number 3, so if Fujisawa can get one behind cover and maybe just biting the 4-foot, great chance for a pair.
This is the kind of calls you'd expect from a top team, and I think this is the way you have to play if you're going to win any championship. Remembering that the great goal this season is the Olympics.
Lots of communication there. A little deeper than they'd like, but well hidden behind the guard. Little chance for a bailout here, though, for China if they can draw one in front. Maybe. That one was maybe 2 feet deeper than they would have liked. So can Jiang Yulun weld one on top of that red Japanese stone? Saw that fantastic draw that she made in the second. Well by the guard. Mission accomplished. Now the question is, can you play back 4-foot weight and maybe get a deuce? Or do you just play the straight draw and take your one? Well,
I'd say the tap looks pretty difficult.
Judging by the brush position of Yoshida, looked to me like they are going to try the tap. It certainly curls enough there if they've got good line. The risk, of course, is if you bump the weight up just a fraction, it'll track straight and could risk giving up a steal. But one of these chances in the game where you have a chance to get a deuce.
Yeah, shot is makeable. I think I'd chicken out and just play the draw for one, though, but that's probably the reason why I'm not on the ice this week.
Satsuki Fujisawa watches intently. It's all about line. No brushing to it yet. They need this to curl.
Yeah, too much room on the guard to make it, I think. Hopefully stick around for one. They will.
And it does. So the down weight saves it. It is a score of 1 for Japan. They were looking for the deuce, so small moral victory there for Team China. But after 3 ends of play, we're trading ones. It's Japan 2, China 1.
でも使えそうだね。でやっぱ使えば使うほどだんだんまっすぐになっていくかなって感じ。ブレイクが遅くなってる。
Back inside the Erina Ice Arena in Erina, Australia. Live action at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2017. You're enjoying our feature match in the women's competition. Japan versus China. And this one, as we expected, tight contest. Yan Hui early in the game at 92%. She's off to a very fine start in this match. In terms of her shooting accuracy. So, once again, both teams are saying we're going to try and make something happen. Earlier, Sander mentioned the free guard zone, so those stones cannot be removed. Yurika Yoshida, she's at 96% so far in the match. So both of the leads having a terrific start. Nice weight control there from Yoshida. Comes to rest just in front of the tee line and right behind those guards. So this is a little bit of similar to how we saw the second end building up. Center stone and starting to stack stones behind it. China couldn't cash that one in. Let's see how they do this time.
Two long staggered center guards. That usually means a messy end. Won't be able to run anything back. So usually teams just leave the guards up there and until someone wants to bail out. Good sweeping there from Team China. They drag it up into the 8-foot. But they are stacked up pretty well for Team Japan now, so if you're Team Japan now, do you say, okay, all out to steal? Yeah, I think so. I mean, even as it lies, it's virtually impossible to get to the red stone. So throwing another guard here, you know, China's going to have to start breaking things open and regain access to the forfeit.
Mari Motohashi at 79% so far in the match. Motohashi having an opportunity to play in this tournament. Silver medal team in Swift Current had Yumi Suzuki playing at the second position, but for this tournament, she's at the alternate position, and Motohashi's in. And here is Yao Mingwei at 92. She's having a good game.
As expected, China will try and peel the guards here. Just not very easy to peel these two staggered stones, and you'll see one red stone will sit behind, and two center guards still up for Japan.
And they are still slightly staggered, so if they could tuck a corner behind those two red ones, they could really make it tough for the Chinese to get at the shot rock. One of those we saw in end number 2. Zheng Yilun, if she needs to draw the button, she can do it.
Well, she did practice drawing the button in the first end. Seemed to help out.
Motohashi just trying to tuck a corner of that stone to try and prevent an ability to run back. And they do just tiny, tiny, tiny little bit behind that front one. Jiang Yilun recognizing the danger. She says we have to deal with these front stones.
You can definitely get some action on the top two reds here. The question is if that the first red stone she'll make contact with here, if it's just going to redirect off the second red and jam onto the third.
Yao Mingyue with big weight.
Actually over curls altogether and Starting to look pretty messy now for China.
Yeah, actually makes things worse for Team China because it creates an overlap of those front guards. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed in that.
あれでね97とかだったんだ。でもねその次もまた使ってるからすごい一本一本伸びてる。エリカしてた。最後止まってたね。
Fujisawa holding the brush for her third player. Shinama Yoshida. 67% so far in the game. A little below par for her, but it is early in the match.
So changing it up a little bit here, Japan. Wanting to put another stone into the forfeit. A little bit more risky, a little more aggressive, but again, that's what we've been seeing from Japan the whole game. This one will just sit on the corner of the yellow.
There's Yoshida. Had a couple of options there. She could have gone around, but leaving the stone corner frozen on that Chinese rock.
That's still pretty good.
It's awful. That's not awful.
I thought they were just playing a guard actually, but at some point, of course, Japan would try and get another stone into the forfeit and apply a little more pressure.
There's 20-year-old Jiang Jindi. She's had 79% so far in the match. Gets a piece, moves them around a bit, but still two center guards there for Team Japan. So I think a key shot here coming up, isn't it, Sander, for Japan?
It's kind of one step forward, two steps back for China, all the way through the end. And looks like Japan's going to come around once more.
This one's got lots of weight. The sweepers are backing off. Here it comes. Would have loved that to curl maybe another quarter of a rock. I think that fooled them a little bit. I think they thought the weight was back past the tee line and weren't really keeping the stone moving. They couldn't afford to go past the tee line, but Japan does lie too. It's still trouble brewing here for Team China. They've got last rock, but there is a pile of rubble in front of their target area. Fujisawa and Yoshida looking on.
I think a bit too late to continue peeling the guards here for China. There is a slash double available for them. Just hit this red stone next to Elon's broom. Fairly thin onto the second red. And that would certainly improve things for the Chinese.
We need to catch this quite thin. Just blows it by the shot rock. That was close. That only needed to be another millimeter or two wider and she would have made that double. And you see on the replay, watch how close it comes to that target rock, just past it. So China with the hammer, but Japan here with a great chance to lock it up. We saw Yilun draw the button to save her one, but Japan with an opportunity now to cut off the path to that button area. One-way traffic. It's only the outturn side available right now. Here is Satsuki Fujisawa. Japanese skip at 79% so far in this match. It's kind of a, yeah, okay, not perfect. I think they would have liked that one either a little bit higher or around, I think, Sander. It was sort of an in-between shot there, wasn't it?
Yeah, just over curled, nicked the front stone. Doesn't leave a very natural angle for a double here, though, so not too bad. If that shooter rolls another foot, China has a double to line behind cover, but I'm just not sure if they'll be able to catch this one thin enough. So looks like they're just going to play a hit and roll here, a little hit and flop, and try and cover the shooter just to quarter around the top red and the blue 12-foot.
So
Bit of a setup shot.
I was going to say, this is more of a setup shot, isn't it? They're trying to position their own stone in front of the Japanese rock somehow to use on the next shot.
Problem, though, even if you make this shot, you'll probably just see Japan throw the guard on it, and you won't be able to use it. So maybe realizing that coming back.
Sometimes it looks a little different down at the other end when you get in the hack to have a look at it, doesn't it? Maybe she thinks that from the hack end she can see a little bit more than she thought, and maybe the thin double is on.
Yep. Let's see another look here. And it looks snug.
Sure does.
I think she might be able to make contact with the second red. Just got to get very close to the top top two stones in the 12-foot. And I'll tell you, Hans, if she ever nicks that red stone on the center line, it's going to leave Japan lying 3 with one more to come. So a bit of a risky shot here.
I agree.
Playing well, though, so far.
Yep, 96% so far for the game. A big high-risk shot here for Team China. Well, they're safely past that top one. They do get on the inside, but it rolls across the top of the Japanese stone, so probably about as well as she could do. I really don't think she could get across the face of that stone enough. She came really close to that top stone, and even at that, rolled well across the top of the Japanese target rock. And we'll get a look at it. Maybe an inch past the guard.
Yeah, it could maybe have touched it on the way by, but never enough to push it out of the 8-foot, let alone
I agree.
Only just the 4-foot.
So, Shilin and Jindi talking it over.
Now, of course, if you're Japan, you just throw a guard. You might leave China with a chance to come around and score your single. So probably going to apply some more pressure here. Put another stone into the 4-foot. Just got to make sure that you don't leave a double, though. China is lying second shot. And do realize that Japan is just playing the safer shot this time. Yeah. And it's just a guard, actually.
Straight guard is right.
I'm a little surprised they were, you know, putting the heat on for the last couple of calls, and now just kind of safing it. Well, it's still a bit inconsistent for me.
Yeah, this has been a bit of a, it's almost like a boxing match where, the boxers are just kind of filling each other out and just trading point-scoring rounds, and nobody's really landed the killer blow yet, and that might have been the first chance that the Japanese had to really go for it, and they backed away. So, chance here for China to draw one in and get a piece of the button to save their one.
Well, I was happy to see Japan just guard the whole end, really, and just score the 1 point. To steal one in the 4th would have been great. But they have done that in the end. It's a tough draw for Yang Yilun.
Needs a piece of the button to score one. This one is tracking way out there. It's going to have to curl a lot to get a piece of that button area. Weight looks great, but will it curl enough? Here it comes. Here it comes. Is it enough? Is it enough? I don't think so. Players are taking a look at it now. Perfect weight there from Jiang Yilun, but did it curl enough to get the point? One red we hear, so it is a steal of 1 to Japan. Really close, perfect weight, but Japan steals 1. First advantage now to Team Japan. After 4 ends of play, they're leading it 3-1. we often say that curling is a game of inches, and we just saw it there in the fourth end. China with the attempted draw to the button to save their one, but so close, but so far away. And it's a steal of one to Japan, and for the first time in the game, Sander Rolvag, a bit of daylight on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and with the 2-point lead, Japan actually wanting to come into the house here with the first rock, but just comes up a bit shy and leaves the center guard. Now it's China needing to make some more offensive calls, try and score 2 back, tie up the game into halftime. This one just barely creeping over the hog line.
Stone has to be clearly across that red hog line to stay in play, and it is.
Yeah, still a guard, just if you are able to draw around it, too much space for Japan to come around and make a play on any stone hidden behind that guard. Also, might choke off the in-turn draw for you later on. Might become a nuisance. So, not a very well played corner guard.
Yeah, a little long to be useful, but it's out there nonetheless. This one also slides a little deeper than Team Japan would have liked. They would have liked that in front of the T-line. So China with the hammer here on end number 5, a 10-end contest. If the scores are tied after 10 ends, we'll play an extra end. So we have a winner. We mentioned that we've got 6 member associations competing here in Erina. All of the women's teams are in action here this afternoon. Teams play a double round robin, so that's quite a big schedule for the players. They're going to play 10 games in the round robin phase in the women's event. So they want to preserve energy where they can. This is the first game for Team China. As we mentioned, Japan has already played 1 game. They played this morning. They lost to defending Pacific Asia champion Korea. And once again, stones starting to accumulate, Sander, behind that center guard.
Yeah, and looks like China might just play a bit more ball this time. The 2-point deficit. First call that came to mind there for Yilun was to play the hit and roll off the center guard and try and open things up, but let's change your mind and we'll try and play the corner freeze here onto the red stone just thrown by Japan.
Yao Mingwei. And there are always really interesting debates among curlers about which shot is the most difficult shot to play, but many would say a corner freeze, a perfect corner freeze, is one of the toughest ones. You need perfect line and absolutely perfect weight. That one is fractionally heavy. It leaves a little bit of a separation, but the angles are good for Team China. Staggered behind that center guard at the top of our screen. So end number 5 is shaping up in a very interesting way.
Yeah, so the whole point of playing these freezes is just makes it hard for your opponent to remove them. And force more stones in play. Just increases the chance of you scoring a multiple end. I don't think Japan will mind, though. They like putting stones in play, and they know how to. So
yeah, they certainly aren't afraid of a bit of offense and some stones in play. They'll accept the risk.
Throws another guard. This time China will try and open it up. I'm surprised they played it that way, Hans.
Me too.
I thought they could have played that across the nose, hit it on the other side, made the double, and try and roll the shooter.
Getting a bit of action, so. We did mention that this Chinese team have had international experience at the junior level, but for everybody except Yilun, this is their first international experience at a Pacific Asia Open level. Whereas Fujisawa's Japanese team has tons and tons of international experience. Well, these stones are accumulating.
Not too upset with the end result here.
Yeah, Yoshida was just checking that the weight was expected. No decision time for Team China.
Seems like the team's quick to come down, and every time Yilun spends more than 5 seconds to determine a call.
Yeah. It's important in a team dynamic to recognize that, though, isn't it? When you get the sense that your teammate needs a little bit of input.
At the same time, you want to leave your skip a whole room to think before interfering.
So after some discussion, it's going to be a play on that stone in the front 12 foot. Hit and roll. Fujisawa looking on.
Yeah, instead of just removing the guard, trying to roll the shooter into the house. Could be a point stone. This one over curling. I think we've seen that quite a few times along the center line in this game. The up 8 shots just over curling.
So China does hold shot rock at the back of the button. But there are a couple of Japanese stones right in the front of the 4 foot that are very threatening. Looking to promote their own stone towards the Chinese shot. Just a fraction heavy. Pushes it past the Chinese stone into the back of the 4 foot. Leaves her own 2 stones angled on towards the Chinese shot, but that was just maybe 1 foot from heavy from being perfect center.
Yeah, just a bit of miscommunication there. I think they were sweeping that all too much. Needed to curl a bit more with the weight and try and promote it directly onto the yellow stone rather than past it.
Willing it to curl, but not quite. China's not out of the woods yet, though. Their stone is the yellow stone in the back of the button. They got the hammer, but there's still a lot of Japanese stones clustered around that 4 foot.
Yeah, as you mentioned, those 2 red stones angled onto the shot stone. You hit that combo anywhere, and China's fifth stone will disappear.
looking for a little bit of a redirection off their own stone, but it comes to rest. Well, that's interesting. China's now lying 2. But the angles aren't easy for Japan to get at them.
Pretty good shot there to navigate through the hole. Not much room.
Here we see it coming in between those stones. I think they were just looking for a little bit of a feather on that stone just past there, but curls around it. It's a little heavier maybe than they would have liked. Maybe a foot. That's really splitting hairs. But net result, China lies 2.
I think we'll just see Japan follow that shot down. And try and get to the nose of that stone just thrown. So I wonder, can Satsuki Fujisawa follow?
At this point, she'd probably be pretty happy to sit on top of the Chinese stone and perhaps concede 1.
Just past that long corner guard.
Has to navigate past her own stone, clips it, rolls across it, spins sideways.
Not terrible. Actually touched both the red stones there on the way past.
It did. So China still lies 1. Japan just clinging to a piece of the button for second shot. China third shot in the back of the forefoot. Don't think they can get it to curl enough to nudge it to score 3, but there is a shot for 2, definitely. There we see the spinning action. Just spins sideways and away from the button, leaving China lying 1. So there is a path for Zhang Yilun to draw between all of those guards, right on top of her own stone to score 2. And that would tie this match up.
Yeah, certainly able to play the freeze here. It's looking really good for them. Don't want to move things too much around, just want to create a deadlock in the forefoot, ideally.
Looking for it to curl.
Maybe a tiny rub off the red.
A little action.
Right onto the pocket.
Oh, man. Here we go, folks.
Oof.
China, we think, is lying 2.
That is pretty good, Hans.
It's really good. How do you get those out now if you're Satsuki Fujisawa?
Traffic jam in the forefoot.
There's an absolute party in the forefoot. The yellow stones belong to China. They're lying at least 2. Definitely 2. Japan is third shot there to the left of the button area as we're looking at the overhead. And the options for Japan aren't great. You can't promote that stone sideways. You might be able to cut China down to 1. You see the red stones belong to Japan. China's got last rock here in the 5th. And Japan could make a play on their own stone, but Sander, if it went badly, it could be a shot for 3 for the Chinese.
I think this is the only call, though. Make the slash, pick out 1 yellow. Might be hard for China to find room again for the second shot.
Question for me, though, Sander, is what kind of weight do you play on this shot? Do you just play it like a small back forefoot bump tap to try and cut them down to 1, or do you throw weight at it to try and poke it out? It looks to me with the broom placement that that's probably about a hack weight. So it's not going to be just a gentle tap.
I think you need enough weight to try and remove that yellow stone from the forefoot.
So crucial stone here for Satsuki Fujisawa. China's got the hammer. There's contact, spills it. Well, that's about as good as she could do. And Japan now, we think, is lying 1. But there is an angle now, and we talked about the chance for 3. And boy, depending the way that the stone sprung, there might even be a shot for 4. But there's certainly a shot for 3 for China. If they can hit their own stone on the top of the button with just back 4 foot weight. She only has to move that red stone a couple of inches and they could score 3.
Yeah, didn't pan out exactly how they were hoping for.
Great look at it here.
Pretty much made the shot they were hoping to do, but then the aftermath is just looking at it thinking, oh well.
That's why I was wondering about the weight. I was wondering if they might not have been better just to try and just push their own stone and keep their own stone in play. But regardless, here it is. Last stone on its way. End number 5 for Jiang Yilun. Delicate shot, just looking to angle tap her own and maybe score 3. Has to get by that long corner guard first. Well by the corner guard. How's the weight? How's the line? You got to get past that red one. Clips it, nudges it, slides to the back of the button, and it looks like 2. Needed to curl a little bit more to get the 3. Japan dodges a bullet there, but nice shot there from Jiang Yilun. Delicate shot, great end to curling. And what a game we've got going here in this opening draw of the women's event. After 5 ends of play, we are tied at 3. In the third end, Japan's Satsuki Fujisawa with an attempt for a deuce. but it's a little bit wide. It's a score of 1 for the Japanese. In the fourth end, China. Jiang Yilun has to draw a piece of the button around a mountain of granite. Perfect weight, but just a fraction wide, and it's a steal of 1 for Japan. And in the fifth, a pulsating end, an absolute party in the forefoot. Angle tap attempt, trying to score 3 here for Jiang Yilun. Just a little offline, but it is a score of 2 to China, and at the fifth end break, they tie it up at 3.
次多分コーナー出てくる相当重いんじゃないかな。多そうだね。ピカピカだもんね、だって。ね。ツルツルだ。是啦。重いよ。そっちに入ってから。上げてれば多分止まると思うんだよね。
So both teams back on the ice here for the sixth end. Tie game so far. Pretty much back to where we started. Japan will have the last stone advantage, meaning China will throw the first stone. At least 5 more ends to go. Of course, we will have an extra end if it's all tied up after 10. Yan Hui with the in-turn draw, top 4. That's pretty much the start we had in the first end. China coming into the house at a tight score. Japan throwing the corner guard, trying to get something going. Solid game so far for Yurika Yoshida. Very nice corner guard. So, of course, you throw corner guards when you have the last stone. Try and create some separation, but also keep the center open. So you have the bailout shot to draw the forfeit with your last stone. And China will try and do quite the opposite. Keep stones along the center line, try and clog up the forfeit and create less space, less room for Japan to score. And the center guard is in play. I think there's enough room for Japan here to come around and maybe move up that Yellowstone back of the 4. Sometimes just by playing the freeze, you tend to get a bit of a deadlock in the forfeit. And often you'll see teams with the last one just wanting to move things about a little more, create more room. Actually, we'll knock this Yellowstone all the way through the house. And at some point, they're going to want to shift play over to the wing and behind the corner. Yao Minghui. Yeah, makes a nice hull tap. Probably would have preferred to kill that red stone. Don't want to keep too many opposition stones around when you don't have the last stone advantage. Yes, we'll see Japan now trying to keep things simple. Taking off the center guard. Nice peel. with the goal, of course, again, to keep the center open and get a chance to use that corner guard. You'll see China make the hit in the back 8, and that will certainly open things up for Japan to perhaps make a hit and roll. So, as a skip, you always try and think a couple of try and keep the next couple of calls in mind. This one rolls out. So you might see Japan just actually just draw right around the guard instead of playing the hit and roll. It's always easier placing stones with draws and hit and rolls hands.
Yeah, the draw shot, you get a lot of chance to practice that, and the brushers can really influence the shot a lot as well. Chinami Yoshida.
Yeah, so very often you play a draw like this in behind the guard. Maybe you get a miss from China, and then you can make the play on the shot stone, and then you lie 2. Pretty simple recipe, but this one will pull up way short of the rings.
Yes. Actually, my mistake. That was Marimoto Hashi on the shot. Well, yeah, this is one of those games that could go either way. Finely poised. We talked about the relative inexperience at international level of this Chinese team, Sander, and avid curling fans would be wondering why the former World Championship team of Bin Yuang isn't representing China at this event, but the Chinese curling program has got something, even though this competition is massively important, they've got the Olympics in sight.
Yeah, just talking briefly with Marcel Rock, head coach, before the game, said that they would like to try and focus on the Olympic qualifying event, which will take place in Pilsen, Czech Republic at the start of December, and just all the travel time from here and then back to Europe. There's a lot of time zones, so just basically trying to avoid the travel time for their teams as they try and qualify.
So the Olympic curling event will be a 10-nation event, and the host nation gets a place guaranteed. 7 countries qualify through World Championship performance, and then the final 2 spots in the Olympic field will be determined at the Olympic qualifying event, which will be held in the Czech Republic in December. And China, in both the men's and the women's event, both have to make it through that Olympic qualifier to get to Pyeongchang.
Yeah, so both Bin Yuang and also Lu Rei not present this week. Again, just avoiding all the travel time. There's definitely some jet lag involved when traveling across the world to play curling. It could be a bit of a strain on players. But also a good chance for some of the other teams to participate and gain some much needed experience. Of course, thinking even further ahead for the Olympics in Beijing 2022.
Absolutely right, Sander. I had the same thought, that the Beijing Olympics is going to be in the minds of the Chinese curling program, and of course they'd like to get their teams to Pyeongchang as well. You know, the Japanese curling program, we mentioned that Satsuki Fujisawa's team has already qualified for Pyeongchang, and for the first time since 1998, a Japanese men's team will be competing at the Winter Olympics. Yusuke Morozumi and his team, who are competing here this week, and you'll be seeing them on our broadcasts later in the tournament, and we know you'll enjoy watching them. They're a very entertaining team. Really like the high-risk offense shots. So there will be 2 Japanese teams at the Winter Olympics this year. Zhang Yilin at 83% rather, for the game so far.
Try and stick around this time. If they could ever just fly 2 here, might force Japan to have to score their single, but again, rolls out. And this time, Fujisawa will play the head and roll. Just knowing that if this next if she plays a draw and it's not there, she'll definitely be forced. So
9半10にするかじゃあ。ゴミが引っかかってきそうだね。こんなね。9後半で。9半9後半。9半9後半ね。
ちょっと重たいと思う。
ちょっとセンターは重たいかな。あるかなって感じだと思う。降りたら曲がるしね。
Sounds to me like they're going to be playing just backline weight. Satsuki Fujisawa at 68% for the match. But nice chance here if she can stick the roll. This one's not moving though. Plan B in place. Right on the nose.
yeah, this will leave China a chance to make the hit and roll themselves. Very quickly at the hack here.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what's coming, so might as well get ready.
Yeah, you know what the shot is. Well, wasting no time didn't really hurt the shot outcome. Not a perfect roll, but a pretty good one. Might be hiding a corner. Could be very difficult for Japan to get the inside roll now. Doesn't matter now, it's the last shot coming anyways, but Fujisawa, we saw her nose a blank attempt in the first end, so she'll be looking to improve on that here. Try and keep the hammer.
Yeah, I think most players would probably prefer to peel this on the in turn side. But with that roll being forced to play the out turn, keeping in mind that it was the in turn that overcurled in the first end, so maybe this one's better for Fujisawa.
Yeah, Yoshida liked it. And there it goes. The blank is executed perfectly, so no score on end number 6, and we remain tied after 6 ends of play. It is Japan 3, China 3.
コーナー2本同じのやっちゃったの。ナイス 7.2 だった。
ああ。
ちょっと重たいんだね。全体的に重たい。
Yan Hui gets us underway on the 7th end of this scheduled 10-end contest. Again, a long guard. Kind of a nuisance guard, really. Can't really hide behind it, but it, you pointed out earlier, Sander, one of those ones that maybe just becomes a nuisance later in the end.
Japan still drawing around it though. Now, I think I just mentioned controlling the scoreboard very early in the game, and that's something we might just want to touch on now that there's only 4 ends left. So the thought here for Japan is maybe keeping the blank alive. You might want to blank another end here, because if you score in the 7th end, China scores in the 8th, you score in the 9th, being Japan, and then China again in 10. That way, both teams have last stone to score twice with 4 ends remaining. But if Japan could ever blank this end, it would still be a tied game with 3 ends remaining, and Japan could pick up a point in 8 and 10, versus China's ninth end, meaning they would have hammer twice, China only once, with 3 ends remaining. So that would definitely be something Japan could keep in the back of their head, although now they just got a miss here from China and a chance to draw and sit 2 and perhaps score a couple of points instead.
Yeah. Yan Hui a little bit wide with that takeout attempt, just feathers the stone in the back of the 8-foot.
But yeah, controlling the scoreboard might seem a little confusing to a new fan, but meaning by blanking here, they could restrict their opponent to having last on advantage once and having it twice themselves.
Yeah, it's a bit like a game of poker. You're always calculating the risk and reward on every single shot. So after that Chinese miss, now Japan perhaps switching gears and thinking, okay, maybe we can go for a deuce. But you're exactly right, Sander. Most teams would love to be playing the final end with last rock and the scoreboard at least tied. That's the ideal situation for most teams.
Some teams will do it differently. Some teams will go very hard to blank the 7th end of this situation. Some teams feel like blanking is very hard to do because obviously your opponent is trying to do the opposite. So sometimes just go hard for the 2 instead. And
nice double takeout there from Yao Mingwei, removing both Japanese stones.
I think most teams would probably rather score 2 than blank the end. So if you can do that, good. But if you can keep the blank as an option, also very nice.
The scores are tied at 3. Tight as you like. Nose hit there from Motohashi. Japan line 1. There's only been 1 deuce in the entire game. That was in the 5th end when Zhang Yilun actually had a shot at a 3, but scored 2. Other than that, it's only been single points and 1 blank end.
And you can see the problem now with the long center guard. It's not much to hide behind for China, so it's essentially like if there's no guard in play whatsoever, and Japan has a great chance to blanking the end here and getting control of the even ends, as we often speak about. I think you'll see Japan try and roll away from the center guard, try and roll to the wing.
Mari Motohashi on her in-turn.
Do not want to roll out, though. That would leave a draw for China. That's pretty much perfect.
Comes to rest in that blue 12-foot circle. Even though we live in a largely metric world, the world of curling still calls the circles by the old imperial measurements. The red one's the 4-foot, white one's the 8-foot, blue one's the 12-foot circle. And that is the hack, the starting position for the players. Rolls it towards that center guard again. Doesn't get cover, but closes the house up a little bit. Pretty good shot there for the Chinese. Sander pointed out that center guard is so far away from the house, offers very little in the way of protection. Shinami Yoshida. Right in the nose. And Japan lies 1. It is setting up pretty positively for a blank opportunity here for Team Japan. Jiang Xindi. Again, looking to try and get a little bit of a flop behind cover, but this one's sitting out. And this one is going to roll off the ring, so error there for Team China, and maybe a small opportunity here for Japan and a bit of a choice. Do you say go all out for the blank, or we try and get one behind that center guard and maybe score a deuce? But we see Fujisawa immediately running up to the guard, which tells us the blank is option 1 for Team Japan.
I think if it was a corner guard, you might see a different approach. But I think still will be very happy to blank the end here. The guard wasn't good enough to utilize really, and might as well just peel it out and put another couple of zeros on the scoreboard.
我感觉5-6
可以啊，还可以，我觉得这辆。
Zhang Jilun,
5-6可以啊。
nothing in play.
哇，我觉得有点大。7-7-8。
Another chance to find draw weight. This one just a tad heavy. Maybe rushing a bit in the hack to save time.
They do seem to be a little bit concerned about their playing time, but they're in pretty good shape there. They still have 16 minutes of playing time, thinking time available, so no reason to panic for Team China. They still have a timeout as well.
13秒77就緒。
ちょっとドセンター重いかな。
いや今ちょっと持ちしてるんだよね。でもこっちキープはしてたよね。
足が滑るようになってきた。
滑ってる。さっき追いつかなかった。
So this is almost a chance to practice your blank, isn't it, Sander? Doesn't really want to stick around on this one, but doesn't want to blow it by it either.
I think you probably just try to nose hit here and hope that maybe China rolls out in their next takeout attempt. You might not even have to play the blank. Shot for the blank.
That's a good point. Sometimes your opponent can make the shot for you. A little bit conservative there with the sweeping call, and are they going to pay the price? Is that stone going to stick around? And no, it looks to be off the ring, so as you said, Sander, maybe your opponent rolls it off and you don't even have to throw it. So we're pretty convinced that that stone is off the ring, so Satsuki Fujisawa now will simply throw this stone through the rings to blank the end and carry that last rock into the all-important 8th and even end.
これでボードぐらいかな。
As we
ボードをセットぐらい。
head towards home in this 10-end game.
11。
Through the rings, the players will quickly confirm that yes, that stone is off the ring, so it is indeed a blank end. So as we head to end number 8, the scores remain tied. Japan 3, China 3.
站位，然后第二轮再放，就是，对对对。
我感觉这量稍小点。顶线擦一擦，顶线擦一擦，我感觉量小
Welcome
点。
back to Erina, Australia. You're enjoying live curling coverage at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2017. Hans Fraunlove here with Sander Rovag and Sander. This one is dead even. Japan's got the hammer in the 8th. How do you think Satsuki Fujisawa is going to set this end up?
Well, definitely wanting to score here. Score of 2 leaves you a pretty good chance of winning the game, statistically speaking. And even scoring 1 here is not too bad. As we went through in the previous end, by scoring here, you'll most likely have a chance to score again in the 10th end. Allowing China only to score the once in the 9th, so might play it a little bit cautious just to make sure they have a chance to score. While China might be a little more aggressive here and try and go for the steal, turn the game on its head.
So how much will Team China gamble? Japan's got the hammer. They know the situations. Here we see some of the head-to-head comparisons. Yurika Yoshida with a 10 percentage point shooting percentage gap on her counterpart at lead, Yan Hui.
Yeah, sometimes you might see teams even throw 2 center guards to really force the issue in this end, but
we have seen the Chinese set up some good situations with corner freezes, though, throughout this game, haven't they? They've really been able to generate offense on the back of great corner freezes like that. Nice shot there from Yang Hui.
yeah, it begs the question why the center guard ends up in that spot. She's so precise with the second stone. So I wonder if it's just a lack of focus or could have a problem with the stone. Could be something.
It
but
could be.
I think recent years the stones have been so good, and there's not really much to choose from. I should know. I've actually been alternate at a few championships matching these stones. They're usually pretty good. Makes it pretty boring matching stones nowadays because there's not really much to choose from.
That one's the same. That one's the same. That one's the same. That one's the same. Yep. The standard of equipment and ice preparation has gotten better and better over the decades and over the recent years. And this week is no exception. These are World Curling Federation competition stones, and head ice technician Jamie Barrasso has done an excellent job preparing the ice surface. So it's great for the athletes because it lets them make the full range of shots, and makes it great for us watching and enjoying the games because we get entertaining curling like this. Can she sneak it by? Just chips it. Well, this is interesting. 2 Chinese stones just in front of the tee line, 2 Japanese stones in the back 8 and the back 12 respectively. Japan with the hammer. How patient can you be if you're Satsuki Fujisawa? See the comparison between Marimoto Hashi and Yao Mingwei. Not too much to choose between them. Yao with a slight statistical edge, perfect on her draws. Not laying a brush to it. Has contact, but it's going to roll over to the wing. It's going to stay in play, though, so that's not bad for Team Japan. We talked earlier in the game, Sander, where the Chinese had stones accumulating at second and third and fourth shot, and now it's happening for Team Japan. So, big decision now for China. Do you bail out and play conservative and make sure you don't drop a deuce, or do you kind of go for it? Looks to me like they're choosing the conservative option.
Yeah, just trying to play the double out in the wing here. Might be hard to keep the shooter in play, though. Having to catch the high side.
Hard whoa. Must mean they're close.
I might just play head and roll in front instead. So I'm not sure if they were always playing head and roll, if that was just a change of heart coming down the ice. In the end, it's just a nose hit.
So China's line first shot. Japan's second shot in the back of the 8th. Yellow stones belong to China. Red ones belong to Japan. Because that center guard is so long, that shot rock in the forefoot, Fujisawa thinks she can get to it with just quiet weight from Marimoto Hashi.
Good thing for China, though, it's slightly overpowered, so tough to get to nose here with too much weight.
Want to be tight to that guard or they buy. Oh, just by the guard. What great brushing from the Japanese. Wow. That's one where you buy your sweepers a little treat after the game. Great, great sweeping from Team Japan.
Yeah, that is a great curling shot. Just a perfect weight on the perfect line. Just
That
barely
was-
by the guard, and you can see just enough to push that yellow stone out of the 8-foot. If you throw that any harder, you're never going to curl as much, and you're never going to get to nose. So just all around, really good shot by Japan.
This one looks like it's over curling as well. She hit her own rock. Yes, she has. Might get a little break and roll on top, but no, it goes behind the Japanese shot. So, terrible result for Team China. Disappointment there from Jiang Jindi. She knows that that one's really going to hurt her team.
加过了吧，带球了。
But a great chance now for Japan.
ここになっちゃった。
They blank the 7th end to keep hammer here on the 8th, hoping to score a deuce, and they're already lying 3, and their shot rock is well guarded.
7、6、7でいいよ。
It's almost an embarrassment of riches.
なんない方がいいね。
Had to check the date there, Hans, to check if it's still Halloween, because that was a bit of a nightmare.
That was a bit of a fright. Here's Tsunami Yoshida. She's got a slight statistical edge over her counterpart, Jiang Jindi.
いいよ、ウェイトだけ。曲がってる？大丈夫よ。ウェイトだけよ。
Fantastic chance here for Team Japan if they can run the end out to certainly score 2 and maybe more. Want this one into the 8-foot circle, at least parallel with that stone in the 8-foot. Oh, again, the Japanese have been working hard this end.
They're getting results as well.
Well.
That's another good shot.
As they say, it's a bit of a cliche, but there are certain shots that get made in the gym, and Japan's had 2 of them this end. The sweepers have really contributed.
石だと思う。3選一。10秒吧，10秒。
It was really important that they swept that stone as far as they did. It removes the chance of a double takeout, or reduces it anyways.
逆10吧。
Still a chance for the Chinese to hit and roll, and there we see the great technique from the Japanese sweepers. We've got Yoshida and Motohashi really pounding it, and Fujisawa joins the party. They know they want to get that stone into the 8-foot full, and they do. Great job.
10秒。
China looking for the roll behind cover. They've got the roll, but is it going to roll too far? Works out okay, though. They wind up corner frozen on their stone in the back of the 8-foot, but Japan is still lying 2. So that probably takes 3 or 4 out of play for the Chinese, but 3 is still definitely on for Japan.
でもそしたらここ置かれるもんね。
そうだね。
Effectively eliminating 2 stones there.
もうちょい取ったらやりすぎか。
いや、いいけど。
いいのかね。
But
うん、ちょっとハウス
You kind of feel that a score of 3 would probably kill the game by this point.
Yeah, Japan would love to score a 3 here. That would give them a commanding lead with 2 ends to play.
ごめん、蹴りすぎたわ。
Crucial here for Yoshida to duplicate what Motohashi did. Draw that stone.
さっきよりは曲がってない。
今年は全部欲しいよ。
あ、ラインはいいわ。ラインはいいよ。ウェイトだけ。
So needing to curl a bit more. Have to leave another double.
入っていいかな。
It was Yoshida that threw the draw previously. My mistake. And again,
ありがとう、ありがとう。
arigato. Japanese for thank you. My Japanese is good enough to know that that was very much appreciated by the back end. They know how hard that Motohashi and Yoshida have worked. Catching their breath, and they've really gone coast to coast on 3 rocks this end, but they've all been great results.
Well, it's important to use your sweepers. That's why they're there.
他这只漏了一个边儿啊。
这面对，你看。
You can see there that the yellow Chinese stone in the back 8-foot, how important it was that they swept it as far as they could, because 1 or 2 centimeters short, and that wouldn't have been 3rd shot.
あそこだけペタペタじゃない。
Eureka says, yeah, well, now looking at the overhead, maybe it's not quite as clear cut. I do think that red stone is in 3rd shot. If you're China, you'd measure that, though.
打往里甩。
I think just playing the hit and roll off this back red. Roll to the left of our screen.
我觉得有点难。
In behind the
这玩意儿正
red
磕一
stone,
个
top of the 8.
磕过去
If
的
you can even
话
roll on, frozen onto your back yellows there, you would outcount the stone just played by Japan.
It's an interesting option. It's a bit riskier, but you wonder if she wouldn't make a play at the shot rock on the outturn side. Playing the back stone here, though, it's a safe play.
Might be
Maybe she... And a timeout has been called, so maybe they are going to think about their options here a little bit. And this is the team's 160-second timeout where their coach can come onto the field of play. And Team China knows that this is a critical part of the contest, so it's worth taking the time to talk about it.
不是没有的进，你打定一个，你起码比这个进，他处理不掉你一个的话，你还可以再磕或者怎么进，就是你打出来，你就是给他。黑暗肉 is too difficult. I don't know.
So then you've got a possibility of a freeze on this one?
Freeze?
Or you're looking at coming around that and trying to tap that out?
Yeah, I'll try this.
So if you nose that, they're still sitting one. And if you jam it, they're sitting two. So it's not bad coming around, but which way are you pushing it out? Are you trying to push that way, you roll open. You push this way, you roll open. So I'm not sure I like that come around. You got a freeze possibility here? Or a nose, and you're gonna have a freeze with your last one. So it's freeze.
Freeze.
Because you gotta try to get out of it. As long as you're anywhere kind of in front, she's probably gonna hit it. And she'll hit and roll that way, and then you'll be able to come around and freeze.
Okay.
I think you got two freezes in your next two shots.
Okay.
So after a lot of discussion from input from Marcel Rock, the coach, looks to me like rather than the hit, they're going to elect to freeze that stone to the right of our screen in the back 8 foot. Risky shot, but at this point, we use the poker analogy, you're kind of all in now if you're Team China. They can take Japan out of the end if they make a perfect freeze. At least reduce the damage.
5区那个力量加了吗？我现在14秒，5、6秒，就他那个。
那就试试，我们试试过赢，比方说大点。
Now they're just trying to decide what's the best way to get there. Can they get there? If they're throwing the out turn, they're going to flirt with that center guard. If they throw the in turn, they're going to over curl. Hard to get to that spot. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, that center guard, the path that they'll have to throw a draw. It's going to take them quite close to that center guard as they approach that stone in the back 8. So after a timeout, lots of discussion, lots of input. It is the attempted freeze. She's going to try and draw her stone directly in front of the Japanese stone in the back 8 foot. Zhang Jilun.
Another option could have been to just play the in-turn draw in around everything back of the 4 foot. Definitely risking the game. Playing any shot here. What you're really wanting to do is force a mistake from Fujisawa on our next one. So you could perhaps come in and lie too.
Safely by the guard. Over curling. And it slides into the back 12 foot. So bit of a sweeping error there. The sweepers knew it was a bit heavy, so they couldn't really sweep it, but they could have pounded it a little bit from line. It over curls. And now Japan certainly lying 2, maybe lying 3. And where do you put it now, Sander?
Well, yeah, so timeout called by Japan. They're really wanting to think this one through, not to make any mistakes. I think you might have to expect China to make that in-turn draw I talked about, putting it just back of the 4 behind the Japanese shot stone. So maybe you can just play that draw yourself. Top 4, take it away. Could also just put it on the side of the 4 foot.
Yeah, 3.
So Japan confirming that they are lying 3.
So their only real chance is to either freeze to that. But if they come around to the yellow, you're still going to be 1-2. So even if they come around in their shot, you should be able to tap it back. So probably their only chance to get out is to make a freeze.
Here.
Same shot, right? So you probably want to come maybe just in front of it, right?
Here?
Well, you don't want to over curl, right? If you over curl, it's an easier shot, right?
まあ相手に打たせる方が
これメイクダブルされてもまあ出せばするもんね。
そうだね。
ね、うん。マリちゃんのベリーしてても出せたから。
高い方がいい？
ちょっと高め
の方がいい？
うん。
ああ、ちょっと高かったらさ上通ってくよね。ああ。
そうだね。
So a lot of discussion there, and this is one of these ones where
そうだね。うん。オーバーカールはしない。
there's a couple of good places to throw it, but there's a lot of bad places it could end up as well, Sander. Coach JD Lynn's input was saying really the only danger shot for us is if we leave her another attempt at that freeze on the back stone. So he's asking his team to try and block the path to that stone so she can't try to freeze again. The danger is if you come a little bit short, or you overcurl a little bit, or if you leave your stone in a position where the Chinese can hit and roll behind the pile, you might give the Chinese a bailout.
So it doesn't seem like they're too worried about the draw. In around everything back four. I guess that means they can see enough of the red stone, top of the 8 foot on the right-hand side here to make a play on it.
It's one of those shots where you think, gee, if I didn't throw it at all, would it be any worse? But
yeah.
Here it comes. Satsuki Fujisawa is indeed throwing the rock, so this one's going to come into the ring somewhere.
Don't want to stop short. Leave something to come around. You don't want to leave it deep and make a bigger pocket for China to freeze onto.
This one's really hanging out there now. It's making a little move. Bumps her stone back towards the stone in the back 8 foot. Actually creates a little bit of a pocket there, so that's not a great result for Japan.
Exactly. It is.
There we see Satsuki Fujisawa. She knows she might have given her counterpart Yang Yilan a little bit of a bailout here. Again, as I said, sometimes you get in the hack and say, I really just don't want to throw this shot. It's actually, there's nothing, nowhere I can put it that's going to make it better for us. But this shot still has to be made. It's really the same shot she just tried. Trying to freeze her stone into that pocket in front of one of those two Japanese stones just behind the tee line to the right of our picture. Critical shot here in the game. Has to be perfect with the line and the weight. Got to get by that guard. Just by it. They don't want to bump. Little feather. That is a pretty good result for Team China.
Yeah. Bit of panic there. Wanted to sit slightly on the corner of that stone they just rubbed off. Skip not too happy with the communication here.
Oof. Bit of venom there from Zhang Jinli. She didn't want to bump. She knew she didn't want to contact. It's worked out okay.
Yeah, the question is, can you blast this yellow and squeak it out the side door?
Gee, I don't
know. Will you move the red stone on the 8 foot on the right hand side? Will it stick around?
China would have loved their stone to be frozen directly on that stone in the back of the 8 foot. There's a small gap there. Sander's speculating if you get a little bit of contact, you could maybe squeeze it sideways. The coaches debating among themselves. Is it there? I'm not sure. Hard to tell. Well, you started this end by thinking if we score 2, we're in pretty good shape. Question is, can you score 2?
Well, there's 2 ways of playing this. Try and peel it out really thin, or you try and catch it just off nose and keep the shooter in the 4 foot. for your second point. Just catch about 90% of this rock. With big weight, you should be able to nudge it just far enough. Score 2.
She needs about 3/4 to 80% contact on the stone to save her shooter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can score 2 by just trying the thin peel here.
So here we go. Final stone of 8 and number 8 on its way for Satsuki Fujisawa of Japan. Sweepers are really pounding it. Is it over curled? It has over curled.
Wow.
And it's a steal of 1 for China. Wow, what a turnaround. Unbelievable. That was brewing like a 2 or a 3 for the Japanese, but as quickly as that one over curls, and it's a steal of 1 to China. So the strategy backfires, and China has taken a 4-3 lead after 8 ends of play.
我那个球没打着，因为你那个之前是9秒5，我那个正好10秒。
上劲儿了，对，咱俩不知道谁反正。
Welcome back to Erina, Australia for the Pacific Asia Curling Championships 2017. Hans Frauenlob here with Sandarova, and this one, what a barn burner. Japan blanked the 7th end to keep hammering the 8th. It was looking all set up for them to maybe score 3 and put the game away, but an interesting tactical decision on her final stone, and then on her first stone, and then on her final stone, Satsuki Fujisawa slightly over curls, and bango. China all of a sudden now has control of the even ends in the scoreboard as we head to the 9th center.
Yeah, that's how quickly curling ends can change. That's what makes the game so exciting. Now, speaking of tactics, we'll see China come into the house here. And Japan will actually play the hit. So opting to maybe blank this end here, Japan, to try and score 2 in the final end to win the game, rather than score 2 here themselves and leave China that opportunity. And I don't think there's a right and wrong in this. It really depends on your team. If you feel very confident of scoring 2 when you have hammer in the 10th end, you try and do that. Some teams are better off being 1 point up without the hammer. So you might just see the stone's been run through here.
Well, what we do know is that this one is super tight, and 10 ends are scheduled, but as we said earlier, if they complete 10 ends of play and the scores are tied, we will play an extra end. No ties in curling.
Might be a nice breather for the teams too after a really intense 8th end.
It sure was.
Especially for Japan. Just maybe just exhale a little bit, especially for Fujisawa. After those couple of misses, it'd be nice to just...
Yeah. That 8th end had a bit of everything. We saw the Japanese front end sweeping 3 stones coast to coast, fantastic shots. And as you say, there was stones in play everywhere, all kinds of angles, 2 timeouts. That end had a bit of everything.
Nose hit, and that's a guard.
Yep, so Fujisawa doesn't bite. There we see Yao Mingwei looking down the ice, and Mari Motohashi being asked to remove that guard.
one over curling.
Oh, Willet Beak sticks around, so now it's decision time for Team China.
Yeah, they will come around, so
Game on. If China could steal the 9th end, that would be a fantastic way to approach the 10th. And really 2 good options for Team China. If they can force Japan to score 1, they would take, China would take last rock into the 10th end tied. Really important that Mingwei really sticks this one behind the guard and in front of the tee line. Now it's the turn of the Chinese brushers to try and drag it. I think this one's a bit light. Comes to rest just short of the house, so it's a guard, but they would have wanted that one in the rings.
Japan looking to play the appeal on the guards. Perhaps looks easier to catch this on the high side here, make the slash double rather than in the pocket. There's less risk of spinning the Yellowstone into the house by doing this, though.
Motohashi with the big weight, trying to move rocks. 1-2, spring.
Perfect.
Nice shot there from Mari Motohashi. Kills both the guards and promotes her own stone into the rings. Sometimes as a player, Sander, when you nose hit your first one, when you know you're trying to clear a guard, it's wonderful to get a shot to bail yourself out, and that's exactly what Mari did on that shot.
Always better to make your second shot rather than the first.
That's the positive memory for later in the tournament. Zhang Xindi now making a play on that stone in the rings. Sticks around.
Okay.
So this one is playing out in the manner that Sanders speculated. Japan quite happy to try and play for a blank here. And they would come home 1 down, but with last rock. So the sound level in the arena has come down a little bit. The other games in this draw have concluded. So this is the only game remaining in this afternoon draw in the women's event. Hits and rolls out for Team China, so nothing in play. So we'll just update you quickly on the other scores. Defending champion Korea roll along. They've got their 2nd win. They defeated New Zealand by a score of 10-1. And Hong Kong, scoring a 5 in the 7th end, came up with a big 11-3 win over hosts Australia. But our feature match returning here, China versus Japan. China's leading at 4-3. Japan with the last rock here on the 9th. You'd have to say a very, very slight advantage to Team China, but this one could still go either way. Japanese sweepers are going, gee, it's a 10-game double round robin. This is the first game. 9 more to go.
Yes, a lot of people, when they think about curling, think as a sport. I can tell you, it's pretty exhausting to play a couple of curling games.
Yeah. Definitely cardio, upper body strength, core strength, all required to be a top-level curler.
Yeah. Some sports you might play a game a week, maybe 2. In curling, you might be playing 2 games a day. They're 2.5 to 3 hour games. Of course, you have all the warm-up, then the pre-game practice. Essentially, you're in activity about 4 hours every game you play. So that's 8 hours activity a day if you have 2 games, and you do that for a week, 10 days championship. It takes a toll on the body, but of course the mind as well.
I was just going to say, it's not just the physical strength, but really just retaining focus. The mental intensity of curling, especially at this level, when small fractions make such a big difference, is just as draining as the physical effort. It's a game of strategy and execution, and that one is nicely played by Team Japan. Pretty straight up and down, though, in the ninth end. Pretty much by the playbook. Japan is looking to blank this end. They'd like to keep the hammer into the 10th end. Try to score a deuce and win the game that way. China is trying to force Japan to take one. Good sweeping there from the Chinese front end, holding the line and importantly keeping the Chinese stone on the rings. So no freebie this time for Satsuki Fujisawa. She'll have to make contact, and she wants to roll her own stone off the rings.
Third blank attempt for Fujisawa so far in the game. She's 50-50. Sure, missing the first end. Made the blank in 6. This is a really important one too. If you nose hit score 1, tie game, China has the hammer. Huge advantage coming into the 10th end. Again, if you miss it altogether, the same pretty much. But if you blank it, it's pretty much 50-50 coming in to the final end of play.
Intently watching Satsuki Fujisawa. No brushes to it yet. Has she got contact? Yes, she does. Very nicely executed there from Team Japan. So we go to the 10th end. Will it be the final end? We're not sure. This one is really close. China holds a 4-3 lead after 9 ends of play. Welcome back to the Erina Ice Arena, Erina, Australia. Buckle up, curling fans. It's the 10th end, and it's the classic situation. China's leading it 4-3. Japan has last rock here in the 10th end. Japan needs to score 2 to win the game. Couldn't be closer.
China comes into the forfeit, and no doubt Japan will throw the corner guard. And we'll see if China plays this a bit cautiously and comes into the house with their second stone as well, or if they throw a tight center guard. I think most teams at this level will probably play it pretty cautious and try and kill the 2. Rather get the force and play the extra than get too cute and look for a steal. But that depends on the shots made or missed.
Indeed. And there's the corner guard from Yoshida. So it's in the free guard zone. That means the Chinese can't play that shot. They can move it, but they can't move it out of play until the 4 rocks have been thrown in the end. So Yan Hui being asked to play another stone down the middle. Some of her guards in this game have been a little bit long to be useful. This one now being swept about halfway in tight. Good line as well. Line's the most important thing on the guard and covers the shot. Oh, have they pulled the rock? Oh, they have pulled the rock off, so We can only speculate that there was either a hogline violation or that the sweeper touched the rock in motion. Either of those would be a foul, and that would have the rock removed from play. Bit of an example of the spirit of curling there, Sander. The Chinese players obviously called the foul on themselves and removed the rock.
Yeah, I think it's probably a sweeper touching the stone. If it was a hogline violation, I'm sure they would pull the stone a lot earlier.
But
Also, it's hard. It's easier to miss the hogline violation as a sweeper.
so a bit of a break for the Japanese here. See that stone coming to rest in the back of the 8-foot. So now Team China has to reset. Now we'll take a look at it here on our replay, and let's just see if there's any contact with the stone by one of the sweepers. There we see the foot just came into contact with the rock, so the Chinese players knew that, and they called that on themselves. You're not allowed to touch the stone in motion with either your foot or your brush.
Very fair play, I have to say.
Absolutely.
They actually didn't have to take that stone off. We could have asked Japan what they wanted to do as well. There's a few options in those cases. Japan could have said, you know what, just keep it there. Didn't make too much of a difference. Or they could have replaced the stone where they thought it would have ended up. Or Japan would also have the option to pull the rock. So China doing that by themselves, obviously very fair play, but almost feel like it maybe wasn't even that necessary. When a stone crosses the hog line and comes into play, you have more options in terms of dealing with the situation, but
well,
fair play to China.
I was going to say, I mean, I greatly admire the sportsmanship, and instead of effectively making your opponent call the foul on you, you call the foul on yourself.
Exactly.
So it's really good sportsmanship there from Team China.
Just taking that, it's always tough to make that call, being the other team. So, like you said, they do it themselves, not putting any pressure on Japan to be the bad guy or anything. So, still tons of shots to be made in this end.
Yes, it does change the complexion of the end. The two Japanese stones are behind that corner guard, and now China's trying to take those stones away by freezing to them, trying to brush this stone up in front of the Japanese rock. They'd love to sit right in front of that stone. Oh, great brushing there from Team China. Fantastic shot. That one is just a peach. All hands on deck brushing that one, and it was worth it because it landed in an absolutely perfect spot, really negating those two Japanese stones behind the tee line now.
Makes it really tough to get those red stones back into play. I'm going to have to try and come after it. Tap things around a little bit. Try and free that yellow somehow.
Once again, the Japanese sweepers having to work really hard. They get it by the guard, but is it going to over curl? I think it will. Changes the angles, though, so it unlocks those red stones a little bit for Japan, but China is still lying 2. Japan with the hammer. They need 2 to win. Japan scores 1. We're going to go to an extra end. Here we see the effort again. Seems like we've been saying it all day. You know, Yurika Yoshida has just been absolutely pounding it. Been working really hard in this match. Motohashi says, yeah, it's not bad. So intriguing. This one could go either way. Oh, mistake there for Team China, although it actually, as a mistake goes, isn't so terrible. She wrecks the guard, but she does leave the center guard. which might be useful for the Chinese a little bit later in the
对，
end.
我们开始这边去。
You can see it now partially covering their own shot rock.
バックライン
But an error.
しっかりバックラインに曲がってて
バックでもいいかスイープバックでいいよオッケー早く出せなくても大丈
Jiang
夫
Yilin looking on. She knows that that center guard, she might need that on her last one to draw around it to try and force a steal.
スイープハースイープハーやっやっナイスやっやっ
I think Yoshida's on the guard. Yes, she is. Pushes it into the rings, moves the guard, pushes her own stone just past the tee line, and Sander, the intrigue continues.
Yeah. Not like they needed any more red stones on the wing there, but
Yeah, 2 would be enough. They don't need to score 6, but they are accumulating.
可以，打流就行，逆时啊，
still a bit of a worry for China, though, of course.
逆时来吧，
Yeah.
这儿都
That
行。
many red stones in play.
OK 多大力量10
So
秒吗
what is the play?
稍微大点力量呢，9秒。
9秒
Throw a
OK
bullet
放一点点。
down here, try and spill as many reds as possible, but
Interesting. Do you think that's necessary?
哦，来了。
OK
not necessary, no. I think probably see Japan make a play on the shot stone here and try and fill up in behind the guard, so
9秒9秒
that's probably
5，带点带点。
more of a worry.
嘿，好，小丽，嘿，好，嘿，小丽打，查住，嘿，
There goes 1. There goes 2. They'd love to sweep that one out of play, and it is out of the rings. So China now still lying 2. Japan's got third shot, so definitely changes the angles here.
对，出门就擦好。
On our replay, we can see the red stones all moving.
现在一个里面
China lies 2, but access to the Chinese shot rock is definitely there for Japan.
出门就得更。
So that shot choice, Sander, tells me that China is thinking, okay,
不安になる
extra end.
いやダメだよ
ま
ね
だいいんじゃない
That wasn't a play that you make if you're trying to steal the game right here.
ねこれワンだもんねうんいいと思うな
10半とかにするうんそうだね結構曲がってるし重たいし
And now, because there's a bit more separation between these stones, there is an opportunity for the Japanese to double out the 2 yellows and lie 3. 2 for sure, anyways. So I didn't love that call. It's a quiet wait, though. So just a positioning shot here from
10
Yoshida.
半待って今で10半10前半10前半
There's the hit. There's the roll. Goes beside the Chinese shot.
Yeah, just trying to group them for a better shot at the double on their next one, knowing that China now will have to make the hit and roll away.
そうだね。結構。
So from here on out, rock position is everything, isn't it?
我们挤了一下那个。
China's going to try and get a gap and some separation, but still lie 2, and Japan is trying to close it up and give themselves a chance at a double takeout to score 2 and win the game.
I think you can afford to roll this quite a bit if you're China. If your shooter ends up lower than the other yellow, it'll be hard for Japan to play a double without jamming on their back reds. So just gotta make sure they roll here and sit 2.
带着点啊。
9秒5。
Big weight. Big weight.
下线。
下线啊，下线。
Will she stick around?
擦一擦也行。
No, she kills the 2 at the back, so makes a double takeout, but loses her shooter.
Not a bad
Question,
option,
isn't it?
especially if
Yeah, who's
the
second
top
shot?
Yeah, top yellow is second shot. That's actually not a bad result. And it does look like they are second shot because Fujisawa is eyeing up the double.
ね、うん。
So, in the course of 2 shots, we've gone from a cluster of stones all sort of locked and frozen to
こっち結構曲がってたもんね
ね、そうそう。
really, I'd say, a pretty good chance here for the Japanese to win the game.
来るもんね
I'll go back to that shot of Jiang Xindi when she played the hit on those cluster of stones and unlocked them. That's kind of opened the door a little bit, I think, for Team Japan, but still got to make it. This is a tough shot. Thin double. Kills one, but rolls across the second and into the back of the 12-foot. But is that the saver? Now Japan is lying second and third. China is lying one, and we can see the Chinese immediately saying, okay, we got to draw another one in here. Hide it behind that corner guard, and we're looking pretty good for an extra end.
我也不知道他俩在那看啥呢。
近啊，比那俩是近，最好还是这样。
OK，
最好是5区或者平。
5区。
Jindy with her brush position telling us where she'd like that stone to come to rest.
有点黏。
Chinami Yoshida and Satsuki Fujisawa know that was a chance maybe to win the game right there, but just didn't get that one thin enough. But no room for error here for Team China either.
Well, the other option Fujisawa had was to just play and draw around the corner guard. Because she hasn't really played that many draws either. So even if you make the draw around the corner, and you don't get a chance to score two, at least you practice your draw weight, and you should be safer for your last one for the extra. So it'll be interesting to see if the Japanese skip has the draw weight in her back pocket.
Boy,
after quite a few ends of hitting.
This one is tracking wide. The sweepers are backing right off it. This one is not going to hide. Will she set up a double? Will she stick around for second shot? Fujisawa sweeping it deep, and it does come to rest for second shot in the back of the 8-foot. Sigh of relief there from Zheng Yilun. She knows that, oh boy, that slides another foot and we're in jail. As it is, there is a thin double there, but now because of the angles, she's probably going to jam the one on the side. She might score two, but then she could lose the game as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it, Hans. Of course, you'd rather take on a tough shot to score two than go for a steal in the extra if you think the odds are in favor, but this looks really tough. I'm not even sure if it's there.
Yeah, it's a super thin double, and you probably jam the red one to the right of our picture as we're looking at it here. So yeah, an awful lot of risk playing that. So discretion maybe being the better part of valor here for Team Japan. Score your one, go to the extra end, try to set up your steal.
I think it probably will jam on the red, but they're hoping for the yellow to then spill out the back and then keep the shooter in for the second point, I think, is the way to make this one.
Well, here we go. Last stone on its way for end number 10. Will we be going to an extra end? Can the double be made to win the game right here? Catches it thin, rolls across the top, and it is a steal of one to China. And China roars back in the late going, stealing the 8th end, stealing the 10th end. And China comes out victors in this one by a 5-3 score. Satsuki Fujisawa of Japan rolling the dice on her last one, trying the thin double takeout to win the game in 10. Rolls across the top of the shot, and it's China with a huge win in the opening round of this women's event at the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. They take it out by a 5-3 score. Disappointment for Fujisawa, but elation for Team China. Highlights from the feature match between Japan and China. Fourth end. Jiang Yi-lun has to draw a piece of the button around guards. Perfect weight, but it just doesn't curl quite enough, and it's a steal of one for Team Japan. Chance now with China with the last rock here on the fifth end. Jiang Yi-lun with a delicate little tap attempt to score at least 2, maybe 3. Not quite perfect for the 3, but it's a big deuce for China. That draws them level after 5. Tons of rocks in play in the 8th end. Last stone on its way for Japan's Satsuki Fujisawa, but this one over curls, and it's a big steal for China. Momentum in this game is changing. China goes on top 4-3. And in the 10th end with the game on the line, Japan down 1 with the hammer. Fujisawa trying a thin double to win the game. Catches the top one a little bit thick, rolls across the Chinese shooter, and it's another steal of China, and China steals the game. They win it by a score of 5-3. And now some thoughts from the victorious Chinese coach, Marcel Rock.
All right, so a good start for your young Chinese team. How would you wrap up the game?
You know, it was a good game on both teams' part, and we were quite fortunate in the 8th end to get out of that with a steal, and it probably determined the outcome of the game with that good luck.
You were surprised to see Japan play the double there for the win?
You know, JD and I were talking about that, and you'll have a bunch of people back home talking about, well, they shouldn't have done this, and and at the end of the day, Skip has a feeling and has to do it, and you know, we both said we'd probably, you know, draw for the one and take our chances in the extra end. Having said that, if they felt that they wouldn't have a good opportunity at winning it in the extra end, then she maybe felt she just threw it. And so I'm not a coach to second guess people's shot selections. So yeah, no, she felt she had a chance at it, so she went at it.
Well, what do you think your team will take from this game going forward?
Well, we're comfortable. You know, I'm satisfied with the way they're throwing the rock, and we made a lot of shots, and so there's lots of positive to draw from. And you know, they're a young team, and there's some tactical errors there that were made, and you know, there's some things to talk about. But really, at the end of the day, we're just we're happy we got a win, and we move forward and hopefully get another one in the next game.
Are you guys enjoying the Central Coast?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I have two teams, I'm going to be here for every draw, just like you guys. But this morning I had a draw off, so I was on the beach soaking up some sun and getting some color and in the ocean. So it was nice.
Thank you and congrats.
Cheers.
So a great opening start there for Team China with a win here, and we hope you've enjoyed our action from Erina, Australia. On behalf of my colleague Sander Olvag, I'm Hans Fraunlaub from the Pacific Asia Curling Championships. Hope you join us again later today.